Okay, what we're going to do is design a nameplate for a desk or a table in Inkscape. And first thing you need to do is come to your Inkscape app and open that up. It might take a few minutes or 30 seconds or so. Now, once that's opened up, first thing you'll notice is it looks like there's a piece of paper right here in the middle of your screen. Um, you can change the size of that piece of paper easily and use it as a guide, or you can totally get rid of it. That is up to you. But the way you're going to change that size is you'll come up here to File, come down to Document Properties, and this window pops up. You're going to come to Custom Size, and I like to change mine to inches right away, a little bit easier for me. And then you're going to adjust your width and your height. For this particular nameplate, we're going to make it 4 inches tall and 12 inches wide. So for my width, I'm going to type in 12, and you can hit enter, and you see the box change over here. And once I go to height, I'm going to hit 4 and hit enter, and you can watch the box change. So there's my guidelines right there. So now that I've done that, you can exit out, but before I do that, I'm going to change my default units to inches, which right here, that's what that changes. If you watch, I'll change it back, or there's millimeters, and change it back to inches. Once you do that, you don't have to hit enter. All you do is come back up, exit out, and it keeps it that way. Nameplates, you got to watch because the O's will drop out and all that stuff. So to get started, come over to your tools along the side, and the main tools that we are going to use will be the rectangular or square creator, the circle, and the text. So first, what I'm going to do is come over here. Now this is your guide. You could draw your box right along there, and you could get your 12 by 4. Or what you could do, we'll just delete that quick. You could come over here and draw a box. Now you can see I can't move it, but I could still draw another box. After you draw something and want to resize it or move it, always go back to your arrow. Now you can move it. You can come over here. You could use your arrows to resize it, or you could come up here and resize it. What I'm going to do, remember our width was 12 inches. So I type in 12 and hit enter. And then I come over here to my height, type in 4 and hit enter. And now I've got a 4 by 12 box. And you can see if I put that right there, it matches up perfectly. I like to do mine away from that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to click off of that so I can't move it or anything. Next, we have to get our text in there. So I'm going to do just a random name. So we'll click on our text. Don't click down here because our text is going to have to be white to contrast with our black box. So all you do, it doesn't have to be in a specific spot, just inside of that black box. You'll click, and then we'll type in here John Smith. Okay, now you guys can't see that. What you do, don't hit any other buttons after you type. Don't hit enter or any of that. You'll come down to your color palette and click white. Once you click the white, then your text should show up, and now you can go back to your arrow, and if you see, we get all these arrows around the name, and we can resize that. The size that this name needs to be is, for the width, which will be this way, we're going to go ahead and do 2 inches. And for the length, if our box is overall 12, we are going to make that 11. That way we have about a ½ inch on each side when we resize it. So once I get that 11, oh, I did them backwards. Go back to your undo and Our width needs to be 11, sorry. Hit enter, and height needs to be 2. Okay, now that looks a lot better, and I'm just going to put that about where it needs to be. So right there is a pretty good look for what we need. Now to zoom in, if you push down on control and either roll your mouse or your fingers on the trackpad, you can get closer or farther away, make it a little easier for you. The way the plasma cutter works, if it were to cut out this piece and the inside, that O is just going to be gone and you won't have the interior part. Same with this J here. So first thing we're going to do is I don't want this font. I want one that's going to be a little easier for me to cut out. Click on your text, come over here, and as soon as you get above your lettering, you will see that a box pops up around it. You need to highlight this box, and once you get that highlighted, come up to the top and you can go to text, and then in text and font, this window pops up. You might have to change your font size so you can see what your different fonts are going to look like. The font that, if you click over here, so I'm going to start, that's the one that it was, and now I'm going to click on these. What you can do once you have one highlighted, you can just hit the down arrow on your keypad, and it'll show you your different fonts right here, and if you can bold them and that sort of thing. So let's find one that comes up really well, and you might have to go kind of slow to get them to change. I think this one right here is one that cuts out really well because it's nice and thick. So once I get that, I will come in here, click apply, and if you can exit out of there once you get that. And if you look, our size changed. So once again, we select our lettering. We're going to come back up here. Our width is 11, hit enter, and our height is 2, and then we hit enter. So pull this back down, get it about where we want. We want about a ½ inch here, ½ inch here, and a ½ inch there, because this bottom portion will be bent over so it can stand up. However, we still have this problem with our O, and that problem is easily fixed. Let me get this to the center. Now you notice I moved my box, but the lettering didn't come with it. If you want everything to move at once, what you do is, zoom out a second, I'm going to highlight. So I clicked up here and just drug my mouse across it. Now the lettering and the block are highlighted. I will come up to Object, and I will come down to Group. What this will do, it'll make the box and the lettering one piece. So now they both move together, which will make it easier for me to zoom in and fix it to make it an easier and nicer piece. So the O, this will cut out, drop away. This will cut out, dropping everything away. If you've ever seen metal signs before, like an E, the O, letters like that will need to have some sort of a support piece between the inside and the outside. Easiest way for that is to come over here for our rectangle, and if you look at my rectangle, it's got a white box around it, meaning it will draw my rectangle in white, just like that. Okay, but I don't want my rectangle in white, so what I'm going to do is delete that, go back to my rectangle, and I'm going to come down here to my color palette and select the black. Now you can see my rectangle is black, and I'll just draw it over here. I'm going to want a skinny piece that'll go all the way from the top to the bottom. So now we need to decide how big we want that, because if we put that there, that's taking a lot of material away, and it might make the O look a little confusing. Easiest way that I figured out, you want a little over 1/8 of an inch, but you want less than 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so we could do the fraction conversion of that. I've figured out that if the width of that needs to be 0.15 is a very good number for the width. And once I do that, I hit enter, and you saw the size of that change. Now, I will come over here, drag that piece and set it down and click off. You can see it's a little off-centered. Okay, trying to drag that to where it needs to be will be difficult. So you can click back on it, use your arrow keys to slide it over. So I moved it over one, still not quite where I want it. Go one more, and that looks like it's pretty close to the center. So I'm going to go with that. Now, like I said before, if I were to move this piece that we just made will stay there. Just to show you, see how it moves over to the H, back to the O, and the J. So I'm just going to undo that move quick, and we can do a couple different things. One is go back to our highlight everything, go to object and group. Now everything is one piece. What I need to check is go to your display mode.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I can edit it out.
Did Sean talk to you about those volleyball standards?
Yeah, I'll check that out tomorrow when I get out to the shop, if that works.
That's perfect.
Okay.
I'm missing two really lightweight ones. Do you think any of them off the top of your head?
I mean, possibly one, if they were, but I know they were the ones that we brought out were pretty heavy. So,
oh, yeah.
So I'll double check and see.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, but they should still be out there. If I don't think we've cut them up or anything like that.
Thanks much.
Yep, no problem. So once we go to view, come down to display mode and click outline. When you click outline, you can see we've got a rectangle here. The plasma cutter is going to cut out all where it meets black and white. So it'll cut out this rectangle, which will get into this, making our nameplate look odd, and it'll have gaps where it doesn't need to be. So I'm going to go back to display mode and put it on normal so it looks good. And next I'm going to take a screenshot, which Command-Shift-4, and just go ahead and drag just like that. You heard the click, and I'm going to come here, just minimize, and here's my screenshot right there. So that's exactly what I'm looking for. I need to bring that into Inkscape now, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You can't just right click on these. You have to come up to edit, copy that image, and open up, oops, wrong one. Open up Inkscape. And this is the one we did. The image, I'm going to right click and paste. Now we've got the image that we just brought in. Since it is now an image, we need to make sure it is selected. Put it over here, and you right click on that, and then you'll trace bitmap, or you can come up to path and go down to trace bitmap, and it will get you to the same place. So right click here, trace bitmap, and this window over here pops up. So you can adjust the lines and all that with these numbers here. You don't have to. Usually they're pretty good about where they're set right now. But watch where my buttons, or not buttons, where my size arrows go after I hit update. And you'll notice this happened here. So it kind of brought it in there, and then I'll hit OK. And that's when my arrows change. Once you hit OK, all you have to do, exit out, and you're going to drag this over. Okay, so how do you know which one is your good one, which one's your bad one? If I zoom in to the picture, you see how it's very pixelated and blurry compared to after we trace the bitmap. Tracing the bitmap makes it a lot cleaner image and it cuts out easier on the plasma cutter. So we'll just select that and delete it. And now we don't need this anymore since we've got our picture in there. So all we've got is our finished product. But we do not have our 12 by 4 sign. So we'll have to come up here to our sizing, make sure your object is selected, and width we want 12, and height we want 4. Hit enter. Right there is the product that we want. Once you get to this point here, you should be able to go up to view, display mode, hit outline, and only the letters are outlined and the outside of the box. Okay, this is exactly what we want. We know our O is going to stay because we have all this, and whatever is black we're going to leave in. We're going to cut out the white. So we can go back to display mode and click normal, and there it is. So to save this, just file, save as. I like to save mine to the desktop, so make sure you do that, and then we'll save it as nameplate. You can name it whatever you'd like to help you remember, and we'll make sure that it says .svg on it, and click save, and we'll minimize out of our program here, and right here is our nameplate drawing that we are now ready to import into SheetCam to get to the torch cutting program. So there will be another video after this one about getting it from a file to SheetCam and onto the torch.